Show. Peter G. Show. Divorced dad, single dad. Divorced dad, single dad. Peter G. Show.
Hey, everybody. Sunday night. It's that time again. How the hell is everybody? It's East meets West tonight. Yes, sir. Finally, right? For those of you that observe Palm Sunday, 1 week before American Easter. Hey, Charles, good to see you. 1 week before Easter. Easter's a big deal. I'm Greek. It's I'll get into that next week. Our Easters fall in different times, sometimes on the same times, a lot of times way off, or a week before, a week after. It goes by the moons. The Greeks believe in the old calendar. It's they don't switch their traditions. But either way, we believe. Yeah. Anyway, last week we had old St. Patrick on the line. He's always good for a few laughs. Once in a while, I got to break it up, and we've had St. Patrick on for 4 years in a row. Hard to believe, but yeah, so it was interesting. And then I got into some serious stuff last week. I just took the show for myself. Next week, for Easter, even though it's a serious holiday, once again, trying to take a little break. It is Easter, and I don't want to push a lot of guests on a holy holiday, but I am going to be calling up the Easter Bunny, and the Easter Bunny has been on for several years too. Oh, here comes that music. We are officially kicking ass now. Get ready to kick some ass. Anyway, so I'm going to be doing that, and I'll be taking calls next week, and I'm going to ask, put it out there. If any of you guys have questions you want to ask and things like that, I'll let you line them up ahead of time. And here's the reason why. Quick note. First of all, these watch parties on Facebook, they're going away April 16th. I'll be no longer able to share during the week like a watch party, which I really liked. And I think people liked it too, but they're changing things. This is the reason why I'm asking you people to please, please, please go to YouTube and hit the subscribe button for the Peter G Show. Just hit it. It's so much easier now. I'm going to start building that channel up and going on to a few other streaming network areas, because Facebook just keeps on getting funkier and funkier, and they have had a good long run, but nothing lasts forever, and I'm kind of getting tired of it. I love my Facebook people, though. That's the problem. So follow me. Do me that. Do me that. Hey, Michael. Where you been, Holmes? So here's the deal. The reason I'm telling you to go to YouTube and hit the subscribe button, because if you're following me on anything other than the YouTube channel or the official Peter G Show page, if you're not on those pages right now tonight and you're texting and like commenting, I can't see them. Okay? I can't see them. I won't be able to see them until after the show, which is usually tomorrow. By the time I get to them. A lot of stuff goes on when this show is over. We're up till about 1 a.m. doing this, and it's 8:30 right now. But anyway, I can't see him, so I can't. If you're going, why isn't he answering me? It's because I can't see him. But you need to be on either the official Peter G Show page on Facebook, but I highly recommend you just take a second, go to YouTube, and go to the Peter G Show. It's right there. And just hit subscribe. Nothing else to do. Boom, you're in. It'll notify you when we're doing the shows, and when you want to comment live, you can. I just better safe than sorry, because things are changing. Just wanted to let you know that. All right. Where are we at? So tonight, God, I'm running along, but I'm waiting on, So yeah, tonight, I've been waiting 2 months for this, and we're going to, being that it's Palm Sunday, it's a holy day for a lot of people. Passover started for some of you who observe from the Jewish community. It's all good. so long as we all stay peaceful. You know what I mean? Tonight, I've been waiting. I don't know, for those of you who've moving faster than I thought. I told well, I wanted to make sure I wasn't late because I got a lot going on tonight because my guest tonight, East meets West. For those of you who are familiar with the last Sunday of the month, we do a segment called East meets West. That's when I get Baltimore's own Mr. Bob Paff on this show every last Sunday of the month. And he kind of helps co-host the show. We kind of share the stage for the show because I feel that, he's got things going on his side of the country. I got things going on my side of the country. I do a little broader spectrum of news and entertainment, but he's really got a lot going on with his Baltimore, Maryland community and things like that. But again, he's got a lot going on, but he's got a lot to say, and we compare notes, and I bring some things to his attention and vice versa. And tonight is going to be that night where I'm going to bring Bob Paff on. Now, for those of you who are familiar with this segment, if any of you were aware, Bob Paff did not make last month's show. The reason he didn't make last month's show is because he came down with double pneumonia. Not single pneumonia, double pneumonia. He couldn't settle for just single pneumonia. And then naturally, it's got classified under COVID, as everything does. But I mean, double pneumonia, I would believe, is bad enough. So he wasn't on last month, but he got sick weeks prior to the show. And we just had to cross our fingers and see what was going on. But the good news is he's back in action. Out of the hospital several weeks ago and resting up, and he can't wait to be here. He couldn't sleep. He wanted to go to sleep tonight, but he just couldn't. He's so anxious. I'm talking, chomping at the bit because he's so excited to be back on the show. And without further ado, I'm going to let him tell you himself. Hey, Pete. I'm going to let him tell you himself. The infamous Mr. Bob Paff. Hey, Bob.
Hey, Pete.
There you are.
Is that a Gregorian chant we're listening to? Is that a Gregorian chant?
It is. It's Palm Sunday.
Yeah, man. Thank you for that.
Palm Sunday.
Good Catholic boy. Yeah.
And I thought it'd be ever so just to bring you in because we're going to talk about all that. And it's fine. Leave it alone.
It's late, man. See, I'm like I was napping. Go ahead.
You know what? You told me prior to the show that it was late. It's killing you. And I got to tell you something. I thought about that for a second, and right away my mind starts twirling because I'm thinking about what you're telling me. It's like, Bob, it's not that you're up late. I mean, it's not. It's like right now you're exercising your privilege to be alive.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right.
Come on, put a twist on it, but think about it.
Yeah.
Some of us can't stay up late to be here because they're not here.
I hear you, man.
All right, so let's talk about Bob Paff. Hang on a second. Let's go into. Let's start from the beginning with you and your health, because February 14th I got a message that you were sick, and from that point on, you're in the hospital. What happened?
Yeah. Well, it was Valentine's Day, February the 14th, of course. It was a Sunday. A few days prior to that, I woke up on a Thursday feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. Let me spin this around so I'm not getting like a truck. And couldn't figure out what it was. I've never had the flu in my life. And I wasn't thinking the COVID virus at all, to be honest with you. But it just felt really bad and, sort of sucked it up and turned off my phone one night. My kids tried to reach me, were worried, knew that I had been feeling well. My son showed up at my door, banging on the door, ringing the bell at 10:30 at night. I have to tell you, I ignored him the first time. And he came back, and I opened up the door, and he said, Dad, we're worried about you. And I was feeling really awful. And I said, I'll be fine. Go back to bed. And so the days are all running together here. I guess that was like maybe that was a Friday or something. Anyway, that Sunday, I took myself to I don't know if you have in California, but it's Patient First, one of those outpatient places, and
Sure.
they diagnosed me with. They ran a bunch of tests. They did an EKG and they did all kinds of X-rays and stuff, blood and all that, and they determined that they ruled everything out, and then they came back in. The last thing was COVID. And they came back in and said I did have that. Not only did I have that, I had double pneumonia.
I mean, okay, but let's face it. If you have double pneumonia, isn't that bad enough? I mean,
yeah, it is.
Because you didn't go for just single pneumonia. You had to one up it. You know what I mean? There's Bob always performing. You know what I mean? Anything to get off.
But you're right.
But all of a sudden, then everything turns into COVID. Is double pneumonia not bad enough? I can't even imagine regular pneumonia.
No, and to be honest with you, I'd always heard. I've never had pneumonia. I don't know if you've ever had it, but you hear about it, and older people get it, and people die of it. And I never really. I wasn't cavalier about it, but I never took it seriously. I never had it. It's bad, and that alone can kill you.
Sure.
Forget the COVID thing. So anyway, what's interesting about it is I go to this outpatient place, and they diagnosed me, and sent me home. Said, okay, quarantine for 10 days. Here's some cough medicine. Meanwhile, I didn't have a cough. But bizarre. Sent me home feeling awful. So that was February 14th. That was Valentine's Day. And by that Wednesday, so I sucked it up and went home. That following Wednesday morning, so that would have been what, the 17th, I think, right? Yeah. I told my son I needed to go to the emergency room.
Right.
So we went to the emergency room, one of the local hospitals here, and I wanted them to admit me because what I was having was severe abdominal pain.
Really?
Yeah. So the only
breathe?
symptoms I had, Peter, were abdominal pain and back pain.
Could you breathe?
Yeah, so the breathing wasn't an issue, which again is bizarre.
Yeah, kind of.
I had no headache, no fever, no sore throat, no coughing or anything like that.
I thought pneumonia is like fluid in the lungs and things like that.
It is, but no. So I didn't really. It was interesting, with that diagnosis. I was just feeling really weak, really tired. So we went to the emergency.
It's freezing up.
Room, and I wanted them to admit me for observation, nothing else, and they did. You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
You there? I'm here.
Freezing up a little bit.
You there?
Yeah,
right.
I'm here.
Good. Okay. So anyway, they admitted me, and I wanted them to, and just put me on oxygen, and we're monitoring, my heart rate and everything. And of course, at this point, I was diagnosed that I had the COVID and then the pneumonia, and so they put me on supplemental oxygen. Right. Stayed there, and then an ID specialist, infectious disease specialist, freezing up a little bit again. There we go.
Yeah, it's okay.
Came in. They wanted to determine whether or not I was a candidate for remdesivir, which is the drug that Donald Trump had taken.
Yeah,
and I was Fortunately, I was a candidate for that. They gave me that. It runs its 4-day course.
I'm surprised they offered that.
Surprised they what?
That they offered that.
Yeah, they did.
That's good.
Remdesivir?
Yeah, I mean, they did because I heard you're avoiding it.
They weren't doing anything other than that.
Good.
They were avoiding it.
Well, yeah, I mean, like a lot of the hospitals, they didn't want people to take it because, it does work. You know what I'm saying? The political end of it.
Yeah.
Like a lot of doctors being pressured into not subscribing.
Yeah, no, they came in to determine whether or not I was a candidate for it, and I was. Apparently, I have an acquaintance who was recently diagnosed who was not a candidate for it because apparently they told this person that, they had the coronavirus, or not coronavirus, COVID, for too long. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so they couldn't take the remdesivir. Right. So I did that for 4 days, because that's all you can do. It's a 4-day course. It's an IV. And again, they had me on oxygen. They were monitoring my heart and everything. And then I just really kind of hit the wall. I wasn't, what I said, there's no more they could do for me. I couldn't sleep in the hospital. The food was horrible. And so I told the specialist that I was going home the next day. I said, I'm leaving. You can't keep me. And you know, you can't. And she said, you're right. And I said, so my son's going to pick me up at 3:00 tomorrow. I'm going home. I got to get out of here. Get me the hell out of this place. So I spent a week there, not sleeping and really not eating. They would bring in these pills every morning, which I felt like it was sort of like, take this. This is for your cough. And I said, well, I don't have a cough. So I got to that point too, where I just couldn't swallow any more pills and I wanted to get out of there. And so got out of there, sent me home. With oxygen, which that's another story. I mean, the oxygen guy didn't show up the day that I got home. That could be a little challenging, particularly if you need something to breathe like oxygen. Right. So that was a little bit of a screw up, to be honest with you. I'm supposed to be at my house between 3 and 4. They never showed up. Wow. So the oxygen guy came the next day to deliver the oxygen. Yeah. The guy came the next day to deliver the oxygen. And I did that for a day. I had this canister, walking around, and the nasal cannula and all that kind of stuff like that. But but after doing that for a while, I didn't want it. If this makes any sense, I didn't want to get dependent on that. I was feeling like, so the biggest issues were the breathing did become an issue. As a matter of fact, the day that they didn't show up with the oxygen was one of the longest nights of my life. I paced the floor of my house. I saw every hour in the hour. In this pitch dark. My son had spent the night with his fiance. I didn't want to bother them because I didn't want them taking me back to the hospital because there was no way I was going back to the hospital.
Right.
But I was having trouble breathing. So there's a fine line there, man. I'm telling you, the things that we take for granted.
Sure.
And I'll tell you this: I'm not our listeners here. I'm not a masker. I'm not freaked out. I do it because you have to. It's not the law, but the governor says, or it's mandated, or stores won't let you in. So I do it. But I'm also not one of those people who was out in the park with nobody anywhere near me with a mask on, or driving alone in my car with a mask on. I'm not that guy. And so now I can tell your folks and, my folks, and everybody knows me. I've had the virus and the double pneumonia, and I'm still not freaked out by it. If I was, I'd probably be talking to you with a mask on right now.
Well, I mean, to be fair, Bob, I mean, it's wintertime. It was wintertime over there. It's cold as shit. Anybody could get sick,
Right.
normal sick, right? You have every chance. I mean, and let's face it, we're not 25 anymore, and these things happen. So the odds of you getting sick was a possibility, not necessarily COVID. It could have evolved into something of that nature.
Correct.
Who knows? But, but you had pneumonia. I mean, pneumonia is a tough one. It really is.
It is a tough one. Yeah, well, it's a tough one, and I was talking to somebody earlier today. I didn't realize this, that once you get it, you're more susceptible to it. I will tell you, I'm not back to 100%. I'm probably not even back to 90%. I still get tired if I'm out doing yard work or something, and I'm not really even thinking about it. And then I sit down or whatever for a while. I feel it. I feel the exhaustion. I could sit and nap every day. I mean, I'm yawning now every now and then. Of course, there's also it's midnight here on the East Coast.
One of our listeners says you're looking pretty good for being sick.
Yeah. Well, thanks. Thanks.
I figured you're going to lose 20 pounds and you're going to look all drawn in the face. And
so did I wish I'd lose that 20 pounds. God. I think I probably did actually. I've been home now for a while. So whatever I lost, I gained it right back. Yeah. But so I'm still not, and it makes me, I get tired. I feel weak. I go out for walks and stuff like that, but it's a scary thing. So anyway,
let's take it back a little bit, because this is where I see somebody else. Susan Ryan says you look great. See?
Hey, Susan. Thank you. Thank you, Susan.
Go. So here's the thing. I know that laying in a hospital bed. Now, thank God you weren't in ICU and you didn't have a tube down your throat.
A ventilator. Yeah.
Thank God for that, right? Because believe me, you were sick, but it could have been a lot worse. But your brain is still sitting there while you're in the hospital bed and you're doing a lot of thinking.
Sure.
What were you thinking about?
Well, great point here. And I'll tell you, and I could grab my son and my daughter both wrote me notes. They thought that this might have been it.
It's scary.
It was very scary. my daughter said in the note that she wrote me, my daughter, my youngest, that she said it was one of the scariest nights of her life.
Absolutely.
She came over here. She was at her mom's because I sent her home. I didn't want her to get sick, so I sent her back to her mother's because she's normally with me every other week for the whole
Right.
week. But once
Right.
I started feeling bad and thinking it might have been that, I sent her back to her mother. And she came over the night with my son and his fiance to knock on the door, and they were worried about what they might find, which I can understand that. You can understand that.
Sure.
And she sat in the car while they came in, and and found that I was okay. Obviously, I'm here, but it was frightening, and so everybody was really thinking. One of my sons is in Denver, another son is in Rhode Island. So obviously
Right.
they called everybody. It was a pretty frightening thing. So yeah.
Wow. Okay, so you're in, but okay, I get that. I can't even imagine because again, for children, that's a wake up call,
Yeah.
in a way. Because because of COVID, this is what we've been dealing with all year long, with people just all of a sudden getting sick and all of a sudden not making it, and those kind of things, and it could happen.
Well, I'll tell you, and since then, and I'm not going to mention this person's name, and you notice I'm being careful not to even mention gender, but there is a person who I'm connected to on social media who also was diagnosed and was also not an alarmist, a masker, whatever. And I say that it's kind of tongue in cheek because again, I wear it because everybody has to when you have to. But anyway, I'm not an alarmist, and even though I've had it, let me tell your listeners out there, I'm still not. As a matter of fact, somebody's asked me, one of my friends, actually, we're Facebook friends, but we're also friends. He lives here in Baltimore. He said, "Are you more or less afraid because now you've had the virus?" And I said, "Well, I was never afraid.
Right.
So I'm not more afraid now." Kind of like you were saying, I've never had the flu, but it was cold here. It was February. As a matter of fact, the week I was in was one of the coldest weeks we've had here. It was snowing.
Sure.
And so it could happen. It could happen. So it's kind of like my number came up and I was due to get sick or whatever. But I wasn't scared before, so I'm not going to be more scared now or even scared. So
And you don't know what the recovery is to pneumonia either. I mean, this could be typical like recovery from pneumonia. It takes time, and then you're dealing with the recovery for so long. All of a sudden, you're better, and you forget that you were not better. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it's absolutely true. And there's a little bit of, and listen, I've been an athlete all my life. I've been, all this active and whatever. I'm not a fearful person. I'm not fragile.
Gotta live.
But yeah, you do. And so anyway, I told you about the person on social media who got it really bad. This person said they felt like they were suffocating.
Sure.
I never felt that way. They were taken by ambulance to the hospital. I have a friend who is an associate who worked for him, who was a 45-year-old, strapping, healthy, athletic guy who was on a ventilator.
Sure.
And for 45. My niece is an ER nurse, and now she's working private duty nursing and working with COVID patients. She had a 40-year-old patient who's had to learn how to walk again. So the scariest thing about this is we don't know what's going to sort of pop up. I've talked to people who 8 months later, some friends here locally who've had it, and 8 months later, they're still having symptoms, or they're still tired, or they still have some what they call brain fog. I haven't had any of that. I'd say the two biggest things that I've had, my biggest complaints are being tired and the fatigue, feeling like you've maybe just run a marathon or carried 10 boxes up 3 flights of steps kind of thing. I still can't. This is interesting. I still can't take a really deep breath.
Really?
I still can't because I can hear like the wheezing and the crack. And apparently, and I didn't know this, and it's upsetting kind of to hear this, that once you've had pneumonia, you're more susceptible, or you're susceptible to it. And I didn't know that. I don't know why. Apparently, it does damage to. I should do some more research on pneumonia, but it damages the scar tissue or whatever in your lungs and all that kind of stuff like that develops. So,
but now you're laying in the hospital bed. Okay, you're laying in that hospital bed for a week, and your mind's twirling. I mean, if you're coherent, did you have a fever? I mean, what do you think?
I did not. I never had a fever. I never had a cough. I mean, I'd cough a dry cough like you have. I never had a fever. I never had a headache. I never had any chills. I never had any of those symptoms other than the aches and pains. They were giving me a shot for clotting because you're just lying in bed, so you're subject to clotting, and they didn't want obviously that to happen. So they would give me an injection every day to prevent that. So Yeah, no, I didn't have any, and I still haven't. I haven't had any of those symptoms. Now, I will tell you, it's like if you get some, you feel a headache coming on, you're like, oh, okay, is this an after effect of that? You know, is it am I gonna? Because you can get it again. I mean, and here's the other thing too. People have asked me. I didn't get the shot when I was in there.
Sure.
I'm not 65 or older, so I was told that I'm not in that category. And obviously, my what's the expression? My antibodies are way up because I had it. So I wouldn't even be eligible for the shot until for 90 days. And I don't know that I want it, to be honest with you.
I'm not gonna do it. I'll be all
Yeah,
right.
I don't know that I don't know why I want it, because I read, I'm sitting here reading. This is a great story. We was talking about this. The guy who founded Zappo shoes. I don't know, you heard about this guy, how he died. Wow, unbelievable. But I was reading that in the Wall Street Journal. But yeah, what was I saying? There you go, brain fog.
But you didn't take the shots. But I want to know what was going through your mind when you're laying in bed. I mean, because you don't know what's going to happen, right?
You really don't. You really don't. And you start to realize how fragile everything really is, and we're not in control. And I tell you, this will sound so crazy because everybody's like, yeah, breathing's really important. But the fact that something can come over you and sort of take over you is probably the better word, and put you in that position where, like I told you, this person reached out to me. It was a person who reached out to me who didn't know that I was hospitalized, who said, hey, just want to let you know I've been diagnosed with COVID. I was rushed to the emergency room. I was like, well, I was hospitalized for a week. And this person said they felt like they were strangling, were suffocating.
Wow.
So that's pretty frightening, because you realize this is not mind over matter. If you can't breathe, you can't breathe.
Right.
You can't say suck it up. You know what I'm saying? Or
No,
like man up or whatever. It's something else that comes on and shortens that breath, and you literally can't. Yeah,
Right.
Peter, they gave me this little gadget, this toy. It looked like a toy that I had to breathe into.
Right.
And
right.
you know, they want you to get up to like 2,500 or whatever, and the best I could do was like 750 or something like that. So you're like, oh my God, that's horrible. Yeah. So yeah.
But I mean, okay,
Scary shit.
But you don't know, and you're thinking about your past. You're thinking about what happens if something happens to you. I mean, it's got to be deep, because I think about that stuff and I'm fine.
Well, my life didn't flash before me, if that's what you're kind of asking me.
I don't know.
I mean, it didn't. So I wasn't lying there thinking like, oh, I really messed that up or whatever. I mean, I had every, I was going to get out of there, so I wasn't worried about that. And I just, like I said to you, I hit the wall, and I told the doctor that I was leaving the next day. I needed to get out of there. Hospitals make you sick. There's a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of yucky stuff in hospitals. No, it's true. There's a lot of, people were coming in, nurses were coming. One nurse came in, she had basically a hazmat suit on. She had like a mask and a shield.
That's comforting.
And oh my God. And I said to her, and I think I don't know what her culture was, but she had an accent, and I had a hard time understanding. And so you know how it is hard. It's hard to understand people talking through the mask anyway. Yeah. So we've got a person who's pretty thick accent, and I said, I'm sorry, I can't understand you. I can't hear you. And like, what do you have all this stuff on? And she said, well, I just had a baby. And I said, no, it's fine. You've got to protect yourself and your baby and all that. But it was really interesting. The shifts with these 7A to 7P and the different people coming in. And
Sure.
So like I said, I just very quickly hit the wall and like, I gotta get out of here.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, nobody wants to be in a hospital. Nobody wants to be sick. It sucks being sick. I mean, it just does.
Yep.
And then, God forbid you can't get out of bed, and you're bedridden if you are, and, you're totally dependent on them, and you can't even get up to go to the bathroom.
Well, I wasn't. The only limitation even thinks like, going to the bathroom, they've got like the pans and the bottles and whatever, so you don't have to get up. But they had these heart monitors all over my chest. So I had all these electrodes and all these wires. So if I got up, and they had this like battery pack that felt like it weighed 10 pounds. So I had to like carry all this stuff around if I got up. So that was getting on my nerves, because I just wanted to rip all this stuff off, which I think was part of the reason I just said, I'm going home tomorrow. It felt so good just to have that stuff off of me. I mean, I got to the point where the day before or 2 days before, I was very functional. I was pacing my room. I was going to the, to the restroom. all that kind of stuff like that. So yeah, and it was probably my impatience getting to me. It's like I can't keep doing this.
So you're a bad patient. I mean, you're not a hospital. I mean, some people can just accept it. I had an old man I used to live with, and he passed away last year. But the thing was, he hated, and he went in. He was like surgery. He was a mess, and he could not stand being in the hospital. And he'd check himself out and expect me to go get him, and then I had to deal with him just because the coffee was putrid. I wouldn't give it to my worst enemy. He had an English accent, South African English. Pain in the ass. But God bless him. I mean, the minute he'd come home, you sit him down in the kitchen, he was at peace with himself. It was the weirdest thing. I get it, but the thing was, he just expected to walk out of these places, and then the burden got left onto me and the housekeepers and all this kind of crap. It just wasn't fair. But anyway.
Well, and that's a good point. And I was worried about my son, and I didn't want people to feel like, if I relapse, I told my son, I said, I was close to waking you up, but I didn't want, let's go back to the hospital. Sure. And again, they were supposed to bring the oxygen that day, and they didn't. And so maybe some of it was psychosomatic that, I don't have that crutch. And I did not want to get dependent on that. I did not want to be, because you've seen people with those oxygen tank and the nasal cannulas. And I didn't want to be that person. It's like, I'm not 90 or 80 or 70 or whatever years old, and I'm walking around with one of those things. So, yeah. So
I get it. Well, I mean, that's good. And I'm kind of the opposite. I don't want, it's like something's wrong with me. I think I'm going to wait till the very last minute before I even think about going to a hospital or something like that, which isn't good as well, or going to a doctor, or, because you don't want to go. You just don't want to go. It sucks.
Well, it's funny you say that, because tomorrow I'm going to the dentist. Friday, I'm seeing the internist as a follow-up. The following week or two, whatever, I'm going to have my eyes checked. So I'm like, you know what? Let me just sit down and make all these appointments. Well, that was the interesting thing, too. When they sent me home from the emergency room, they sent me home, and they said, go home and quarantine for 10 days. And the 10 days started from the date of the outbreak, not the date of the diagnosis. So I was diagnosed officially on February 14th. But they used February the 12th, I think it was, or the 11th or 12th, as the date of when I probably had it. And they used that day to count the 10 days down. So they said, go home for 10 days. Sunday, you'll be done your quarantine. I don't even want you walking around the block with a mask on. Stay home and stay away from everybody. And that was the plan when I left the emergency care place, the urgent care place, and it just got worse in the next couple of days. And what got worse about it was, it was just the abdominal pain and everything else. It was just kind of weird. So I couldn't sleep at all. So I was miserable. I was really, really miserable. I could not get comfortable anyway. And then, and even my niece would say, Uncle Bob, try to lay on your stomach. I'm not a stomach sleeper. Apparently lying on your back is the worst thing. So if you can lay on your stomach, it's opening up your airways, your lungs and all that, laying on your stomach. I couldn't lay on my stomach because they had all these wires protruding out of me. So I'd be laying on the battery pack and the wires. So that didn't work. I couldn't sleep on myself. It was horrible. Yeah, it was really horrible. So, yeah.
So I get it, but you made it, and you're out, and then you slowly, I was watching things, and, you were going to get something to eat. People were bringing you food, which was really nice. And, people were looking after you. You had a whole bunch of well-wishers, that's for sure.
People were amazing. I mean, I got fruit, but, Kim Rice, Jonathan Lunenfeld sent me one of those, I'm sure you have them out there on the West Coast, edible baskets things that I got. My friend Jean Weimer, brought over her mom, her mom had just passed away the week or two prior to that, and brought over her mom's applesauce cake. And my friend Amy Emmons Blackstock baked some stuffed shell. People were really great, reaching out and all that stuff like that. So yes. Yeah. And I put the post out there because I thought, I want to let everybody know. And it was because people were texting me and all that kind of stuff in the hospital. I didn't really want to, because a lot of the questions were the same questions as and so I was sharing stuff on social media because then I could cover more.
I get it. It's hard, and that's why I didn't want to even call you, because I said, listen, I'm just letting you know, you don't have to answer me, you don't have to do anything. But then you did, and I appreciate it. But I'm just checking on you. I said I'll check on you in a few days, whatever, and just because it's serious stuff. I mean, that's not your norm. Getting anybody ends up in the hospital, there's a reason for it. So
and I've never been hospitalized other than elective kind of surgeries, tonsils and back surgery in my 20s. But I've never been hospitalized
First
You
for everything.
thank God it wasn't a surgery. Yeah, for anything. So it was. Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. So you got back, and I know that, even that short absence and being sick and all that, you started getting the bug again because your natural desires or whatever. You start getting the itch. You said, you know what, I really, you were just thinking prior to getting sick, you were putting together this little Bob Paff thing on Fridays. You want to go back to your fireside, little chats or whatever. Well, and then you started getting the gumption again. And I mean, just like the last time when you got the idea to do it, you were giddy, like a giddy schoolgirl. You were so excited to do it. And then all of a sudden this COVID knocked into your whole deal, but you finally started back up again now. Your show on Friday.
Yeah. This is, it's a great, you're right. The show on Friday, we've played with the times, because,
it's hit or miss.
You've got a daughter. And so the hit or miss, and I'm doing it from here so I can kind of walk in and throw a log on the fire behind me, and do that. We had a really terrific show. I think you tuned in on Friday. We had Tharu Vignarajah, who was a former Democratic candidate for mayor of Baltimore, former assistant U.S. State's attorney, president of the Harvard Law Review, went to Yale, clerk for a Supreme Court judge, Justice Breyer, and is a friend. And we had him on the show. And we sat. I don't know if you saw that. It was really great.
I did because that was your first full, you had a guest on, and that's
really was. Yeah.
So I was
yeah.
I was looking while you were doing your show, so I just had it running in the background, and I peek in but you talk a lot about the city of Baltimore and those issues because you're so well involved in all that, and Baltimore is evidently still a mess. I mean, it's not going to be any.
It is. I posted some things today, and I've kind of backed off of that, Peter, because I got tired of hearing my own chatter. But as I was driving in the city, my daughter and I had brunch today. The trash, disgusting. And, I wasn't a fan of this mayor anyway. I'm not even going to mention his name. That's how much I'm not a fan of his. But, he's been in the system for a long time, and he's worse than I thought he would be. There's no leadership. I kind of look at it from the country, and I'm not being political. This is not a Republican Democratic thing. It's like everybody's kind of gone to sleep. Like, where the hell's the leadership and all this kind of stuff? So, the world's, like I told you, I was reading this thing about the Zappos guy who was inhaling or ingesting nitrous oxide or whatever the hell it was. Andy Heisch or whatever, the founder of Zappos, who was worth almost $1 billion, who died in Park City. I mean, it's crazy. I had not read the story. I heard about it. But he sold it to Amazon for $1 billion in 2008 or 9. In 2008 or 9, he sold it for $1 billion. And now the guy's dead because he got into the whole this. Well, here's what he got into. He got into spirituality and enlightenment. And it was kind of like, you remember when people doing LSD and all that because they wanted that experience to go a little deeper? It sounds like that's what this guy was doing. So anyway, I knew that's not what we were going to talk about tonight. But, you're talking about the politics and all that kind of stuff like that. So, that's why I had Tharu on the show, because I am still very concerned about Baltimore. This guy's not the answer. Not the answer. The election was November 3rd, and we're almost into April. And so you've got that honeymoon period. Plus, you've got a guy who's been in public. All he's done is be in politics, and he's never done anything. He's never built anything. He's never run anything, and he certainly knows the system. So what are you doing?
How long is the term?
Upsetting.
How long is the term? 4 years.
4 years.
Yeah,
so that's what I was talking to my friend about the other day, because we talked about how do you remain relevant, which is very interesting, because I've been off the air of the AM station since September. And I love this format. I love this, and obviously I'm in the comfort of my own home, but how do you remain relevant? So I said to Tharu, he's writing op-ed pieces. He's been published in the USA Today and other places like that. And he's clearly very bright, very well connected. But you need to stay relevant, because you would really start, if you decide you're going to run again, that midway point. So if it's a 4-year term, at year 2, you decide, okay, let's ramp it up again. But he made a good point. He said, you do have to stay, and his advisors were saying you have to stay relevant because you can't disappear. All these people voted for you, and you lost, and then you disappeared. And I thought that was well said, because he was not the candidate that I supported. I supported Bob Wallace in the general election, as you know, and had Bob on my show, and just had coffee with Bob. So we're figuring out what Bob's going to do. Bob's talked about maybe running for governor, or the Senate, or Congress, or president. Yeah. So we talked about that, but you've got to remain relevant. You can't pop back. Like if I disappeared for
Right.
a while and came back in 2
Doesn't work.
years and
Doesn't
said,
work.
"Hey, here I am." You know that. I mean, you've
Yeah,
got to
it's hard
remain.
being-
You got to remain relevant.
It's hard enough being here while you're here. You know what I mean? Does that
It
make
is.
sense?
It
You
is.
know?
It is. It is. It is.
People are
No,
people are every
it's
2 minutes. On to the next.
well, we you know, we're overwhelmed with stuff, and everybody. My daughter. I was looking at I don't know this girl's name. I was looking at the New York Times Magazine or whatever, and there's this girl in there that's got like 75 million Twitter or TikTok or whatever the hell it's called. And I said, who is this girl? She's a 20-year-old girl who makes a fool of herself, and she's got like 75 million followers. That's where this country is. That's the.
I know.
I'm not going to use the F word. You
You
get
know,
it right.
It drives me nuts.
75 million followers, some 20-year-old girl who my daughter said, "Dad, she's famous for being like the Kardashians." Are you
everybody
kidding me?
No, dude, look, I that's a whole nother rant that I'm going to get into one day, but I do now that you touched on, because there's all these women, they're good looking women that just shake their asses or
Right.
dress sexy,
Yeah.
and everybody follows them. There's nothing there. It's like, then what do you do with that 75 million followers?
And in fairness to them, they're not pretending to have any substance. This girl talks about makeup.
Yeah, well,
So
a lot of
they're not
there's-
pretending that they're,
Yep.
I was
Yep.
reading something that Scarlett Johansson was saying the other day, that she doesn't think that celebrities should be talking about politics. She's like, "Listen, my job is to entertain and do this and do that." I'm summarizing the whole thing
believe 'em.
basically, but she's like, "That's what I'm, you know, I'm not, that's not my thing."
she's right.
And so it's scary though, but this, like I said, this girl, she's 20 years old. I don't even remember her name, but
I got some
anyway.
young people that are in my camp.
listen, I'm losing juice. I just got a warning that I'm down to like 20% on my phone. So if there are
That's
things
okay.
that you want
Well, there is, and we're
to
doing.
talk about before I disappear.
We're talking, and we're going to talk about. We're going to keep on
Yeah,
moving on.
tell
to
me.
this whole thing. So Baltimore, I heard him talking a lot about. You guys were talking a lot about murders and shootings and all that kind of stuff. The pop, you know, the
Yeah.
crime going on over
Yeah.
there. And you know, we've recently had the shootings in Atlanta. We recently had the shootings. You know, that just went on.
Colorado.
Yeah, in
The
Colorado.
grocery store.
Sorry, I'm having my brain fog. I got cards in front of me too. I'm like,
Yep.
I'm like Biden. So
Don't say
yeah.
that. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, yeah, true. But I mean, I'm reading.
All right. So let's talk about this. Let me. I don't want to steal your thunder. Mental health. I mean, all these people, these guys are. First of all, the guy in Colorado was Syrian. I was reading a lot of liberal. Apparently, I don't know if you saw this. Not Kamala Harris's niece came out and immediately said, "It's a crazy white guy," and
Yeah.
then had to retract what she was saying. And
Sure,
did you see that? People went after
Yeah,
her.
and-
So it's a
and they
crazy
didn't-
white guy. Well, it's a guy who's Syrian, but
And they said
yeah.
his name Elisa as you know Alawazi. You know,
Yeah,
it just
yeah.
they wouldn't pronounce
Right.
his name Middle Eastern like Syrian-ish.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now the gun laws. Another reason that they're going crazy with the gun law stuff.
Yeah.
The Congress is in talks right now. I'm a gun
Yeah.
owner. I've been a gun owner since I was 21. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
I will continue to be a gun owner. But I mean, your take on again, taking the guns away from, and they say they're not going to, but yet, the Republicans don't want whatever they're trying to change, and there must be a good reason for it. But
that's such a, and I'm concerned about losing the signal here. I think I don't think that's going to happen. I think the NRA is still too strong. I don't think that they've talked about that for years. I think what we need to do, obviously, I don't think any of these people need rifles, the kind of rifles that that guy used in Colorado. But you're not going to be in the Second Amendment. You're not going to take away somebody's right to bear arms. I think the bigger picture, though, Peter, is, and I was talking to Thoreau about it. You know how you go in for your annual physical or your dental exam or whatever, and start it early, where kids go in for a mental health or mental wellness checkup. How are you feeling? Did you know that suicide is the second leading cause of death between 15 to 24-year-olds?
No,
Most people don't. So let me tell you, listeners, that second
Yeah.
leading cause of death, 15 to 24, is suicide. So why don't we deal with, I said to Thoreau, why are we dealing with that? It's not sexy, or it's not this, or it's not that, or whatever. Nobody wants to, this is the shit that pisses me off with politicians, that nobody wants to talk about that kind of stuff. So we can write a stimulus package for $1.9 trillion. And now there's an infrastructure package that Biden wants to sign to repair roads and bridges. And Buttigieg is talking about taxing people on their mileage, because apparently the gas taxes didn't work. They're talking about now taxing you on the amount of miles that you drive to pay for all this stuff. So we knew we were going to see an increase in taxes.
That's what registration is for. You pay for the roads, your registration, your car.
Correct.
It's ridiculous. Everything's getting crazy, but it's getting crazy. But now,
well, these guys don't care about it. What does Buttigieg care? I mean, he's the secretary. So they're all driving around with security detail and this and that, and limousines and stuff, and they've got that right. They get paid. They get paid. So they really, truly don't. It's kind of like, I was talking to somebody about Oprah the other day. She's been rich longer than she's been poor. She started out here in Baltimore, and I don't know how old she is now. She's older than you and I are, but she's been rich longer than she's been poor, and she's obviously a billionaire. So you look at some folks like that, and in all fairness, she lives on a $90 million house. So what's the reality? And that's one of her houses. But what's the reality? Those people are disconnected from a lot of these things, like just like the politicians, I think. They don't know what it's like for those struggles. So you're getting me on my soapbox at 12:15 a.m. on the East Coast, folks.
I got a little clip here because again, this gun thing is going to go down this week. Something's going to happen, but this is a clip of Ted Cruz. Now, I didn't used to be a fan of Ted Cruz when he was running for president, but I've kind of grown to like him. Other than but he has some things to say. I want you to listen to this, and then you tell me what you think. Okay.
The Department of Justice has a long and I think indefensible practice of not prosecuting felons and fugitives who try to illegally buy guns. If Grassley Cruz had passed the gun crimes task force that it had created,
tap for sound.
Would have charged prosecutors with going after gun criminals, locking them up, and putting them in prison. That's how we prevent these. Now, we will learn in the coming days and weeks the exact motivation of the murderers in Atlanta and Boulder, Colorado. We'll learn what happened there. But we already know this pattern is predictable over and over and over again. There are steps we can take to stop these crimes. And you know what the steps aren't? The steps aren't disarming law-abiding citizens. Every year, firearms are used in a defensive capacity to defend women, children, families, roughly 1 million times a year in the United States. And the Democrats who want to take away the guns from those potential victims would create more victims of crimes, not less. I agree it's a time for actions. And by the way, I don't apologize for thoughts or prayers. I will lift up in prayer people who are hurting, and I believe in the power of prayer. And the contempt of Democrats for prayers is an odd sociological thing. But I also agree thoughts and prayers alone are not enough. We need action. Today, Chairman Grassley and I are introducing again Grassley Cruz, and I would ask Senate Democrats, including some of our newer colleagues who just got here, not to participate again in the shameful filibuster that this body engaged in 2013. Let's target the bad guys, the felons, the fugitives, those with mental disease. Let's put them in jail. Let's stop them from getting guns. Let's not scapegoat innocent law-abiding citizens, and let's not target their constitutional rights.
What do you think?
Yeah, he's right. I wish he said, let's target and let's put him in jail. He talked about mental illness, people suffering from mental illness, right? Very briefly.
Yeah.
I wish he had gone on there more. I'm down to 10%, just to give you a warning. I wish he had talked about that. I really don't get it. There has to be a reason why nobody is talking about Joe Biden's son. Let's talk about Hunter I'm not talking about the sex tapes and the videos, and he's been all over the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times and all that kind of stuff like that. The guy has, I would suggest, and I was reading about a Yale professor just got fired who was making a clinical diagnosis of Alan Dershowitz, and apparently now the American Psychiatry Association back in 1977 passed, you can't do that. So I'm not attempting to diagnose Hunter Biden, but when you look at his history, and it's documented, it's in the paper of, the crack cocaine and all the other issues, that the guy's had. Listen, nobody wakes up and decides to do that. I've been down that road. I lost a son in 2019 due to a drug overdose. Nobody decides voluntarily to go down that road. It's an ugly road. And they're all suffering from something, and it's a coping mechanism, as it was with my son. And so I don't know why, particularly somebody like Biden, wouldn't say, this is what we're going to do. Everybody's entitled to a free mental health screening. Kind of like, this is what I want to do, Peter. And I know I'm going to run out of time. I want to create, whether it's the Zachary T. Paff Foundation for Mental Wellness or Mental Health or whatever, just like you got the St. Jude's Children's Hospital, right? That regardless of ability to pay, everybody's entitled to care. most people, 355 million plus Americans, are suffering from some mental struggles. Let's put it that way. If not a mental disease or illness or whatever, we're all struggling, particularly in these times of COVID, particularly being locked down. Look at kids and what's happening with kids, and look at suicide being the second leading cause of death between 15 to 24-year-olds. This is horrible, and why the hell aren't we doing more about it? It's outrageous is what the frick it is. I want to drop that F-bomb. It's outrageous. As a father who's seen that suffering, saw it in my son. It's outrageous. And why the hell aren't we doing more about that? These politicians don't know what the shit they're doing. They all get into these pissing matches.
They're just
you get me started. Look at the war in Afghanistan. It's 20 years long. We're not winning anything. We're spending how much money and how many people have died. We're over there for 20 years. It's the longest war that we've been in 20 years.
Right.
It's just outrageous. It's what's going on in Colombia now. There was a 15-year-old girl on the front page of the Wall Street Journal who died, because of the guerrillas or whatever in Colombia, all over the world. It's crazy. It's the new norm.
It's the new norm. We're just so used to it. It just goes on and on and on, and they just keep brushing it under the rug. And people just go about their business and really don't even. You'd be surprised how many people have no clue what's going on around the world and our country, other than in their little world, like their family and their town.
Oh, sure. No, I wouldn't be surprised by that. Well, one of the things Theroux and I talked about. See, we rubber stamp a lot of stuff here. If you went to Harvard, if you went to Yale, and this guy had Friday on my show, went to both. And he agreed with me. There's this presumption of knowledge or whatever. Just because you went to one of those schools means you're a terrific student. You really are. But doesn't mean that you've run anything, built anything, that you know how to get things. No, it doesn't. And he said that. And along with that assumption of competency comes a thing of power. And so what we do is we go into the voting booth and we say, oh, he went to Harvard, so let's vote for him.
Yeah.
Why? I mean, and again, we keep doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results. Bill Clinton went to all those schools, and you talk about impeachments, and Trump went to Penn or what is supposedly or whatever. But, just all of them. Harry Truman never even finished college.
Common sense really helps.
I get it. Lincoln was not a college graduate. We just had college back then. And you know what? I mean, if it worked. Thomas Jefferson founded UVA, but went to William and Mary or something, I think. So these schools have been around forever. But if things were working, Peter, if we weren't getting worse and the gaps weren't getting wider, then you say, okay, well, it makes sense. It's crazy. And I've got a son at the Ivy League, so it's not an anti-education sort of thing. But what I'm saying is, folks, it's not working.
It's great if you have an education, and it's great, but you got to have common sensibility about you. I mean, because
what are you going to do with it? You've got to have the common sensibility about it.
There's people that are so smart that can't walk in front of one foot in front of the other. They have to be led around and just their genius part.
There's a lot of truth to that. There's a truth to that.
Absolutely. All right, listen. Let's see. This is going to go into.
You're probably going to wind up just dropping me.
Okay, so this is what we're going to do. So tell everybody real quick, are you still planning on doing your Friday night shows, your Friday evening shows?
Yeah, so what I'm going to do, because I'm probably down to 7 or 3 bars of power, whatever the hell. We're going to do the show. We're going to continue to do the show on Friday nights. The time may change. Next Friday is Good Friday, and I'll be at probably 6 o'clock mass or whatever. Yeah. So it'll be between the 6 and 7 Eastern Standard Time
on Facebook.
Time zone on Facebook. For now, I'm working on a sort of a big deal to television. I really want to get back on the television. I want to take what I do nationally and globally. I want to have guests on the show, kind of a la Phil Donahue, where we're talking to people like Theroux, and we're talking to mental health experts, and we're calling on these politicians to say, why aren't you doing that? That's really what I want to do, and I'm working on some things to do that. But for the meantime, we're going to be here in front of the bunny rabbits. Will go down after next week because Easter's on Sunday, so everybody will say goodbye to the bunny rabbits that are behind me that they love. But we're going to keep doing what we're doing.
Okay, so we can find Bob Paff on Facebook. That's where that's basically the way I started out too. Now we're just I'm branching out for different streaming networks because Facebook has really been driving me crazy. They're dropping the watch parties. I don't know if you're aware of that, but that's going to be gone. I liked it because it was a great way of sharing your shows and things like that. But it's going to be gone April 16th. Yeah. Doing away with it and not replacing it. I think it's
going already. Oh no, April 16th.
It's difficult to figure out how to get it to work, but it is there. It's just I'm having a hard time, and it sucks because I liked that. It was a way to do reruns and get it out to the people who are not up at this time of night or Sunday or Monday or
True.
whatever.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so
That's a
things
good
have
point.
changed. So we
That's a
can
good
find
point.
Bob Paff on Facebook anyway, and you can find Bob Paff on Instagrams and LinkedIn.
You can find me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's a big platform. You can go to Amazon and buy the book. A lot of people have. People have been great, and so you can find me all over the place.
All right. Well,
All right?
look, yeah, because your phone's going to die.
Susan's still with us, and Gene Barnett, and Susan's down there in Tennessee. Susan Ryan, are they still there?
I
Did we
can't.
lose everybody?
Well, no, I don't know about losing them. I just get a lot of comments, so it's kind of swept by. So I'm not really sure.
All right, it's all good stuff.
It's all good either
Listen,
way.
I'm tired. I need my rest. I need my rest.
Remember,
So.
I know, but
All
remember,
right, guys, we're good.
Yeah, we're good. But remember, Bob, some people don't have the luxury of being here at this time of night. So you're a lucky man. A lucky
Peter, you are
man.
preaching to the choir on that one. We'll end on that note, guy. Love you. Have a good.
Love you too. And
it's Holy Week, so good stuff.
It is. And,
okay.
And if I do talk to you, happy Easter, and I will be talking to you because I have to. That's our jobs.
Thank you. And our Jewish friends' Passover was this weekend. So exciting. So all right,
there
guy.
you go.
Take care.
Peace.
All right.
Later.
Bye.
All right. Well, I just forgot that. There we go. And that was Bob Paff. Bob Paff. Sorry, I just for completely. There we go. Bob Paff. He's risen from the sick. Here we go. You know what he was needed. I wanted to get him on, and this is where I forgot. This is the second time I think in 3 years I've forgotten. I forgot to tell you how and why I'm here, and I got to do this because and then once I had Bob on, it was like, no way, we're going full speed ahead. But I couldn't have been here if it wasn't for my beloved Bolt Energy, and Bolt Energy is the reason they believe in me, and I'm very thankful for them. But Pepsi and I want to tell you real quick about Bolt Energy before we get off the show, because I completely rushed to hurry up and get him on because I knew I only had so much time with him, and I blew it because I don't have a producer sitting here telling me what to do, and I just got overloaded. But look, if there's anything you want to see Pepsi, and I'll tell you why in a second, so check it out. Hey, everybody, Peter G here from The Peter G Show with my friend Pepsi. Hey, Pepsi.
Hey.
We're here to tell you about our beloved Bolt Energy. That's right. Why Bolt Energy, Pepsi?
Why Bolt Energy?
Electrify your senses.
Electrify.
It's got no preservatives. Top that. No preservatives. It's enriched with antioxidants and vitamins.
Antioxidants.
It's a cleaner energy drink, Pepsi. It's good stuff.
Good stuff.
And believe it or not, it tastes great.
Tastes great.
What's your take on this?
Nothing more American than baseball, apple pie, and
Bolt Energy. So ask for it in stores. Tell them the Peter G Show sent you, and get you some Bolt Energy. We love you guys. Peace. That's right. Nothing more American than baseball, apple pie, and Bolt Energy. No preservatives. I like to electrify my senses. Bolt Energy. If you can't find Bolt Energy, go to www.drinkboltenergy. Ask the Bolt Energy people, hey, where can I find this Bolt Energy Peter G of the Peter G Show speaks of? They'll tell you where you can find it. I like the way it tastes, too. So, all these things. And again, try to find an energy drink that has no preservatives. Save you the trouble. They're the only ones. All natural. And Pepsi likes it, too. Bolt Energy. Thank you, Bolt Energy, for letting me be here. Every day is a gift. Tonight, we had Bob Paff talk about he got sick, Your mind's got to start twirling when you get sick because they put the fear into you. And, when you're experiencing going to do something you've never experienced before in your life, getting that sick and being hospitalized, I don't know. Haven't been there. Crossing my fingers, we all take our lives one day at a time. Tonight's a full moon, by the way. March 28th. The universe. Listen up now. It's really important that you do a bunch of good stuff these next 30 days because this is like, if you're into astrology and things like this is supposed to be the most perfect 30 days of getting things done, moving forward, letting go of your past. I'm not super like, what's your sign? But this is supposed to be a good month, and I'm taking every day is, I say the same thing, but it's full moon. and it's all about clearing all the stuff from behind you and moving forward. So I'm hoping that all of you do things of worth this month and every day, but even more so, I'm bringing it to your attention that you'll say, hey, you know what? I'm going to try a little harder. I'm going to do this a little bit more. I'm going to try to take care of this a little bit better. And you never know what's going to happen. I would, just try. I mean, I what do you have to lose? I know what you have to lose if you don't do anything. You lose automatically. Divine intervention. That's right. Month, Paul. Month. It's all month till April 28th or 7th, something like that. This is the month you want to put the extra effort in. Try it. See what happens. You never know. Next week is Easter. I'm going to be calling the Easter Bunny, I'm pretty sure. I know it's a holy day, but, I'm bringing a little bit of smiles and a few bad jokes into the scene, too, because that's the way I roll. I'm serious in a not-so-serious kind of way, but I'm always serious. Figure that one out. We're going to have the Easter Bunny on, I'm pretty sure, and then the rest of the show, I'm going to be taking calls next week, hopefully, if you guys will stick around, and I'm going to possibly put out something asking you what you want to know, what you want answers to, what's on your mind this week, and maybe you'll write back and tell me, and that way I'll have something to talk about. I got plenty of stuff to talk about, but, it's all the ass aches in the world right now. I'm really pissed off with, the border and things like that because it's a humanitarian thing, and it bothers me. But, I probably will. But if you got something you want to get off your chest, you'll be able to call me next week. And next week will be the time to call me and talk about what's bothering you. Maybe everybody listening can get can say, hey, it's not just me. It's somebody else sharing the same stories, problems, when most people think it's just them. Again, I want to thank Mr. Bob Paff for staying up late. He always complains about staying up late, but it's so worth it. Once a month. I don't ask him for much, and he does it. We share the stage. We get a point of view from the East Coast. I'm over here on the left coast, West Coast, and we're just doing what we do. I love you guys for tuning in. Please, please, please share. Go to the YouTube channel, please. Just go to the Peter G Show YouTube channel. I don't care if you're on Facebook already, just because things may change, and then you're going to go, what happened? Go to the Peter G Show on YouTube and just hit the subscribe button, please. Yeah. Good night. Make sure you subscribe to YouTube, Paul. Again, I want to thank Bolt Energy. Sorry I got off to such a late start with Bolt Energy, but better late than never. Next week. Again, I'm counting on you guys next week just for Easter. We're going to kick back. Week after that, we are going to be doing a show on mental health on the 11th of April, I believe, with Dr. Jenny Wilkins from South Florida. So you might want to stay tuned for all that stuff. All right. So from me to you, I love you. Thank you very much for tuning in to Life of Peter G, the Peter G Show live. You can catch it on reruns. You can pull it up anytime on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebooks. But if you want to comment live, you have to be on the YouTube channel or the official Peter G Show page on Facebook. That's the only way they'll allow me to see live commenting. Don't ask me why. It's just the way it is. And that's Facebook screwing with my other Facebook pages. They won't let it happen. I don't know. But either way, I'm grateful you're here. I'm thankful for every day. And pretty much I guess I'll see you next week, God willing, right? All right. I love you guys. Don't take any wooden nickels from anybody, and don't take no shit from anybody either, but be kind. Nobody needs to be a pushover, but just be a decent human being. We need more of that. Believe me, we do. Love you guys. Peace out.
Peter G Show, Peter G Show, divorced dad, single dad, divorced dad, single dad, Peter G Show.